Good morning, everyone. Today is Saturday, September 19, 2020. Look, we have walls across the street. It has been a very exciting few days around here. So the readings for tomorrow, which I've listed in the description below, are as follows. Jonah 3:10 through 4:11, Psalm 145, 1 through 8, Philippians 1:21 through 30, and Matthew 20:1 through 16. The gospel reading is the parable of the laborers in the vineyard. You know this one. It's the one where a landowner hires people at various times of the day. And then when you get to the end of the day, that landowner pays everybody the same. And the folks who were hired first get kind of cranky about the fact that they didn't get paid more. So I find it really fascinating that the lectionary pairs this text with the last chapter of Jonah, and then with the first chapter of Philippians. I'm not going to read those to you right now for the sake of time, but if you like, pause this video so that you can read those two readings. Putting Paul and Jonah side by side is an interesting exercise. I love Paul because he is so very human. He's a bit like Peter, but more polished. It would be so easy to read this part of Philippians and think that he was a bit of a tosser. But really, in his humanness, he goes back and forth on whether the work is worth it. And in the end, he decides that it is, and then encourages those who are in Philippi to stay the course and to keep their eyes on Jesus. These are words I'm sure we need to hear as we navigate our way through the rest of 2020 and into 2021. But then there's Jonah, right? He is so angry enough to go on a hill and pout and wish for death. I knew you'd be merciful, God. I just knew it. And darn it, didn't want you to be to these awful people who have done such terrible things to my people. And Jonah builds a booth, and then God causes a bush to grow to provide shade, and then causes a worm to come and destroy it. Oh, I love this story. And still, Jonah is stubborn, and God is having none of it. Your concern for the bush that you had nothing to do with is minuscule, God says, compared to my concern for the people of Nineveh. Just like the laborers in the vineyard who were so incensed, Jonah had an idea of the way that things were to go, the fair thing for God to do. But God isn't so interested in fairness, but in making sure that everyone has what they need. I really hesitate to use the word justice here because so often we hear justice and we think fairness. And justice is not about the human construct of fairness. So as I let these readings roll around in my head and bump up against each other, it gives me a lot to think about as a follower of Jesus and what it means to be a worker in the kingdom of heaven. Sometimes it's going to feel lopsided. Sometimes I'm not going to want to do the work. And sometimes I am. And sometimes the only thing that will get me through is thoughts of the sweet by and by. Through all of these stories, we have one assurance of God's presence and guidance and care in our lives. And that, dear friends, is what gets me through the days when all I want to do is go up on a hill and be angry and wish for death. I don't often wish for death, but these stories are rich stories. So I hope you take some time to read them and to ponder them before we get to tomorrow's worship. You will be glad you did. A reminder that tomorrow's live stream will only be at 8 a.m. and that outdoor worship is at Sugar Creek at 10:30 a.m. There is, of course, road construction going on, so make sure you leave time for detours if you are headed down to Sugar Creek. God's peace be yours today, dear ones.